He rehearsed this breakup for 4 months, in his head, in the shower, on the drive to work. When it actually happened, in real life, he felt nothing. Not relief exactly, not sadness, just a flat, quiet silence where the feeling was supposed to be. The conversation itself was calm, almost polite. Two people who'd both known for a while, finally saying it out loud in a kitchen instead of just feeling it separately for months. No yelling, no dramatic exit, just an ending that had clearly already happened, weeks earlier, and was now getting its official paperwork filed. He drove home. He kept waiting for it to hit. The thing that happens in every movie, the crying in the car, the gut punch moment. It didn't come. He got food, the same order he always gets, and ate it at the counter instead of the table for no particular reason. He watched something forgettable on the couch. He slept fine that night, which somehow felt like the most alarming part of all. The next morning, he checked himself the way you'd check a wound, pressing on it slightly to see if it still hurt. It didn't. He wasn't sure what that meant about him. A friend called that weekend, already using her gentle voice, the one reserved for people who need to be handled carefully. She asked if he wanted to talk about it. He genuinely didn't have much to say. She kept waiting for him to crack, glancing at him sideways like she'd missed a cue. He kept waiting too, honestly, just in case there was more underneath that hadn't surfaced yet. Nothing surfaced. Life went back to its normal shape almost immediately. Same gym schedule, same work deadlines, same Thursday trivia night. The only real difference was one fewer name in his phone's favorites, and even that felt more like tidying up than losing something. This isn't the breakup the culture promised him. The script everyone gets handed is simple. Heartbreak means crying into a pint of ice cream, blasting sad songs, and needing weeks to function. Every rom-com, every breakup playlist, every well-meaning friend showing up with wine operates on that same assumption, that the size of the reaction should match the size of the relationship. So when the actual feeling doesn't show up, people assume something is broken in them, or worse, that they never really loved the person in the first place. But researchers who study post-breakup emotion have found that up to 41% of people report feeling some degree of relief after a relationship ends. Relief isn't a malfunction, it's data. Here's the part that explains a lot of it, though. For a relationship that's been quietly ending for months before the actual conversation, most of the real grieving already happened, while the relationship was still technically alive. Psychologists have a name for this: anticipatory grief. It shows up anytime a loss is visible before it's official. A terminal diagnosis, a coming layoff, or a relationship you can feel going cold before anyone says the word. The breakup was just the paperwork. The loss happened months earlier. Looking back, he could actually point to the moment it started ending, months before either of them said anything. A trip they used to take every spring that quietly didn't get planned that year. Text replies that got shorter, then slower, then both. A shared joke that stopped landing and neither of them tried to revive it. None of that felt like grief in the moment. It just felt like a slow Tuesday, repeated for half a year. But that slow Tuesday, repeated enough times, is exactly what anticipatory grief looks like from the inside. Not dramatic, just steady erosion with no name attached to it yet. For people whose eventual separation lands as relief rather than devastation, therapists note that the hardest emotional stretch usually happens before the actual split, not after. All those weeks of watching the distance grow, replaying conversations, wondering if it was just you. That's where the grief got spent. By the time the breakup is finally, officially real, there isn't much left in the tank to cry with. He didn't skip the grief. He already paid it off in installments. Now, not every case works this way. Plenty of breakups land like a truck, out of nowhere, with zero warning. For those, the numbness runs on a different mechanism entirely. Researchers describe it as a kind of shock response, a temporary buffer your nervous system throws up so you don't process the entire loss all at once. Emotional numbness, in that context, works almost like a circuit breaker, a built-in defense against total overload. The body doesn't trust you with all the feelings at once. That mechanism isn't unique to breakups, either. The same shock response shows up after any sudden loss. A diagnosis, a layoff, a car accident you walk away from. The brain has apparently decided that flooding a person with the full weight of a loss in one sitting isn't survivable, so it doles it out instead, a little at a time, whether the person wants it that way or not. which means the numbness isn't a sign that the loss wasn't real. It's a sign the loss was big enough to need rationing. Either way, anticipated or sudden, numbness on its own isn't the diagnosis. What matters more is what shows up alongside it. Healthy relief tends to arrive with a few specific companions: clarity about what wasn't working, a bit more energy than usual, and thoughts that lean forward instead of backward. Avoidance looks different. It shows up as distraction seeking, or a flat refusal to think about the relationship at all, even briefly. Numb isn't the diagnosis. What happens next to the numb is the diagnosis. He noticed, honestly, that he could think about it. He wasn't dodging the topic when friends brought it up. He wasn't drowning himself in back-to-back plans to avoid an empty apartment. He just didn't have much to report, which, based on that distinction, put him closer to relief than to denial. Even if it didn't feel like either word quite fit, there's a test worth running on yourself if you're in this position. Can you actually look at the relationship directly? The good parts and the bad, without flinching or changing the subject in your own head? Are you making plans, even small ones, that assume a future? Or does every mention of it get deflected with a joke, a scroll, a sudden need to do the dishes? The numbness looks identical from the outside in both cases. The difference only shows up when someone actually pokes at it. For context, on the other end of this, roughly 80% of people report some symptoms of depression after a breakup in general. Sadness, low mood, disrupted sleep, the whole familiar package. Feeling almost nothing at all isn't the common outcome. It's the outlier, which is exactly why it feels so suspicious from the inside. Everyone else got the movie. He got the epilogue, the part after the credits where nothing happens because the story already ended scenes ago. There's a version of this that's genuinely healthy. Recognizing a relationship had already run its course, having already done the emotional work in real time instead of after the fact, and simply not needing a second, redundant grieving period once the label caught up to the reality. There's also a version that's avoidance wearing relief's outfit, where the calm isn't peace, it's just distance from a feeling that hasn't been allowed to land yet. The only way to tell them apart is time, and whether the flatness ever turns into anything else. 4 months later, he still half expects the delayed reaction to show up. A song in the car, an old photo surfacing on his phone, something. Mostly, it doesn't come. His friend still checks in occasionally, a little surprised each time that there's nothing new to report. He's stopped apologizing for that. It stopped feeling like something that needed an apology somewhere around month 2. What he actually feels, most days, is close to what he felt the day it happened. Quiet. Not empty exactly. Just already finished. Occasionally someone asks if he's okay in that careful tone people use when they're bracing for the delayed collapse. He tells them the truth, which is that there doesn't seem to be one coming, and watches them decide whether or not to believe him. He'd rehearsed the ending so many times in his head, for so many months, that by the time it actually happened, there wasn't an ending left to react to. His nervous system had already run the scene, over and over, until the real performance barely registered as new information. The real breakup was just the last rehearsal, performed once, for an audience of one, who already knew exactly how it ended. If any of this landed, there's more of this on the channel.